What's up, guys? So today I want to talk about squat technique, things you can do to become a more efficient squatter, because there's actually a lot of people who are pretty good squatters but could be a lot better if they just made some changes. And I believe that one of the big mistakes that people make when they're going through their squats and really deadlifts and anything is they don't have enough purpose. You want to do these lifts like you're a machine, and each and every single movement that you make from the very start all the way to the end should be with purpose. So the first thing I'm going to walk you through is the setup. The setup is very important. It quite often is going to dictate a lot of the things that are going to happen through the rest of the movement, so you need to take it very seriously. And even during your warm-up sets, you want to make sure you're going through the movement and setting it up properly, just like you would if there was heavy weight on the bar, because it's all about that motor learning. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to approach the bar and you're going to want to put your body in the center of it. You want to place your sternum on the center knurling as centered on the bar as possible. You don't want any movement back and forth, so you want to make sure you're as centered as possible on the bar. Then you're going to make sure you grab on each side of the bar as the same distance apart. You don't want one hand to the right, one hand more to the left. It needs to be as evenly balanced as possible, and you want to make sure you're staying tight with this grip. From there, you're going to want to place your feet under the bar and lean back to engage your lats. Pull your shoulder blades down towards your butt and kind of pull yourself underneath the bar. From here, wedge into the bar by driving your heels into the ground and wedging your back into the bar. This should kind of almost feel like a lat pull down type of movement, where you're just pulling it down into your back, and this will keep you nice and tight. From here, you want to position your feet so that your feet, your hips, and the bar are all in a straight line. And then you're just going to kind of push your hips forward to bring the bar off the rack, and then you're going to get into your walkout, which is what I'll talk about next. Now, as for the walkout, again, this is very important. You want to take this stuff seriously, and it needs to be very purposeful. A lot of people are very sloppy with their walkout, and this hurts. This takes pounds off your lifts, and it just makes it more difficult, and you don't want to do this. So take it very seriously. So the first thing you want to do after you disengage the bar, you want to take a small step back, maybe about 6 inches or so, just to kind of disengage the bar from the rack. From there, you want to take your other foot and go farther back and slightly to the side and get into where that foot would normally be during your squat, and that's going to dictate your starting squat position. So from there, then you take your other foot and then you bring it back to be in line with your other foot, so they're both in the same spot. And then from there, all you're really doing is just kind of wiggling your toes and just getting into position to make sure everything is completely lined up. But it should really only be a 3-step stance. A small step, a larger step, and a small step to get in position. And then you're just kind of wiggling around to get into your starting position. Minimizing movement as much as possible is extremely important. You got to remember that any movement that you make while standing there with a barbell on your back is going to make the barbell oscillate, and that's going to make it much more difficult to do the lift, and it's going to get away from your center of mass, and it's just going to make things more difficult. So you want to make sure the barbell is completely rested and not moving whatsoever before you even think about doing your descent. From here, you want to take a really big breath and just fill in your belly as much as possible. You don't want to breathe into your chest here. You want to breathe into your belly so it pushes out against either a belt if you're wearing one or your tight abs. You're going to end up pushing this out against your belt as you do your movement on the way up. But a lot of people have a hard time keeping this position, keeping this tightness, and keeping this breath in their belly on the descent. And the reason they do this is because they don't bring their tongue, bring it to the roof of their mouth. So this will close your glottis and it'll help you do this. So make sure when you bring that breath of air into your belly, put the tongue on the roof of your mouth and then go into your descent. From here, really think about squeezing your glutes and your legs, and then again, make sure the bar is settled, because all this stuff is going to make it just kind of move a little bit, so let the bar settle. Then you're going to go into your descent. Now, some things we need to think about here as we're going into our descent. You want to make sure that your chin is tucked. Almost think of like a boxer kind of trying to protect his chin as he's fighting. Keep it tucked, and this will help keep your spine straight. You want to make sure that your spine is straight from the top all the way to the bottom throughout the lift. If you don't do this and you're very extended like a lot of people usually are when they do heavy squats, you're not doing yourselves any favors. You're going to have your neck and your upper back and your lower back all going in opposite directions. You're going to have more shearing forces, and it's just going to make the lift more difficult. One thing you'll quite often hear is people say that you need to squat with a certain stance. You need to have a wider stance, a narrower stance, your toes pointed out, your toes pointed straight, all different kinds of things. And you know what? It's just really, it depends on your anatomy. So there's no one perfect squat form that you can just say everybody use this. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. You're going to have to figure out what's more comfortable for you, how you're stronger, and what works well for you. Now, as you go into the descent, your hips and your knees should break at the same time. A lot of people say that squats are bad for their knees, or they can't do squats because their knees hurt. And quite often, if it's not a mobility issue, it's because they lead with their knees really bad with the squat. If you start going with your knees first, you're putting a lot more pressure on your knees than you have to, and that's why it hurts your knees. So if you're somebody who does this, think about starting with your hips first. Break at the hips and then let the knees come. Now, a good thing to keep track of is your bar path. So you need to do side angle shots, and I recommend people videotape themselves doing this stuff because you're never really going to truly understand how your squat is unless you actually physically see it. And that's one of the beautiful things about having a YouTube channel is I can always see my squats and get immediate feedback and know what I'm doing and know what I'm doing wrong. And you should have a good bar path. The bar path should be pretty well straight. Now, there's going to be a little tiny deviation almost always, but for the most part, you're going to want that bar path to be going down to the middle of your foot, from the top to the bottom and all the way back up again. So it's something you want to keep in mind. You're going to do this by keeping your weight on the back of your foot. You want it on your heels. You don't want to be leaning forward on your toes. It's not efficient, it's not safe, it's just not what you want to do. So one thing you can actually do if you have a problem with kind of leading with your toes a little bit, before you lift and you're getting into position, just wiggle your toes a little bit. This will help you stay in your heels and keep you from putting all that weight on your toes. As you're lifting, you want to think about pushing out with your knees, not up. A lot of people are thinking about pushing up. You want to push out with your knees. This will help you stay strong, stay stable. And a lot of people, if they have their knees start caving in when they squat, just thinking about pressing out with the knees will actually take this away. It could be muscle imbalances that do this as well, but one of the reasons is just not thinking about pushing your knees out. So you want to keep everything as tight as possible, keep your movement straight, and just push out. So that's it. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please make sure you let me know and I'll get back to you. The main takeaway from this I want you to get is that it really needs to be purposeful. You need to act like a machine and you need to have purpose with everything you do in the squat to be as efficient as possible. And that's really the difference between a good lifter and a great lifter. It's the amount of purpose they have between each lift. Keep in mind, this is going to take a lot of practice and it's going to take time, and you can't do everything at once. I do not recommend trying to remember all this stuff and putting it into practice. Work on one or two things at a time, master them, move on to the next, and just continue on that process, and that will help you get better. Because if you try to do everything at once, it's just, you're going to get confused, you're going to forget a bunch of stuff, you're going to get mad, you're going to get frustrated. Don't go there. If you liked the video, please give it a like. It really helps the channel out. It helps it get out there so people can see it. If you think this video would help any of your friends or anyone you know, share it with them, let them know, and then make sure you're subscribed for more content like this. I am going to be doing more material on the squat. I've already done one video which I will post at the end on my outro, and then I'm also going to be doing one about how you should warm up for squats because it's not the same for everyone. So look for that video in the future. But again, any questions, let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.